There we go. Excellent. We're on, guys. Here we go. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Heart, Forged by Fire, Inspiring Moments. We have our series of Living Life in Abundance by Faith Community Roundtable. We're so grateful that you could join us today. We have some powerful community leaders on with us. They're global leaders, they're national leaders, and they're going to give their viewpoints today on where we are in our nation and how the pandemic and many other unrest issues that are risen up are affecting not only those that they are serving, but possibly also their families and those close to them in their communities and their neighborhood. So we want to start today with each person introducing themselves. Could you share your position and your name and also how you impact your community, your state, and your nation? And we want to give our illustrious Madam Mayor Felicia Nemhart a chance to start us off. And then we'll go to Ms. Diamond Petty and also Pastor Michael Dickson of Solid Rock Church. Ms. Mayor Nemhart.
All right, thank you, Pastor Claudia. My name is Felicia Nemhart. I am the newly elected mayor for the great city of New Carrollton. How I impact my community: I am a voice, I'm a source, and I'm a blessing.
Go ahead
So
now.
Make sure that our community gets what they need, but also making sure that that spiritual piece is there. So we're doing a lot of things in the city, but we're trying to bring together all our faith-based leaders so that way we can do more together, and that we'll keep that most important piece is that we need God in our life to make everything possible.
Wonderful. That is powerful. That is that means that you're a leader in action. Diamond?
Peace and love. I am Diamond Petty. I'm the founder of Diamondology Flow, which is a leadership coaching and training institute. My background is in coaching, mainly around emotional intelligence and energy flow. I also own a financial education company called Simplified Wealth Builders, where we pretty much show people how to protect and grow their money. And I am with you 100%, Mayor. I think if anything is going to change, it has to start with the spirit and mind of our community. So my goal is to help everyone focus on their self-love and healing and how they can tap into their true God-given abilities. So I'm all for any movement that's helping people to grow spiritually as well as manage your energy. So that's who I am, and very passionate to be here and support this effort, Dr. Claudia.
Awesome, awesome. Pastor Michael?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, all of you, for allowing me to be with you in such great company. My name is Michael Dickson. I'm the associate pastor at Solid Rock Church. I am also the founder of an emerging, or forming rather, nonprofit of the church called the Metamorphosis Community Project, which seeks to do exactly what Mayor Nemhart has talked about, and that is to bring God's people together and mobilize them so that we can serve our community in any way possible. Whatever we have as a resource, we're willing to share, because we want to love our neighbor as we love ourselves, which is the second greatest command. So we're not national, we're just local. We're serving the 3rd district of Prince George's County, and that's what we're here for right now. Maybe the Lord has more for us, but right now that we're starting at home.
All right now. I love it. And I'm Dr. Claudia B. Walter, the senior servant of the Power Alliance of Christians Good Ministries and all of its branches. We serve nationally, statewide, community-wide, and globally. And so we're so grateful to be able to do that. I'm a counselor, a coach, a servant, and just moving forward. And I love the fact of working. We have an outreach, we have a counseling agency, we have a community development organization, which also up until October of this year, financial advising. And so I will be transitioning out of that and handing over all the families that we have helped and, you know, the businesses and organizations. And we just love what we do. So I want to get into our roundtable talk today with that, but please reach out to any of us. We're going to give our information at the end of this. If you find that you need help, we're going to put our website up. We're going to share our website. We're going to share this information also with the recording on our various media platforms. We want you to reach out to us. We want, no matter what you need, we serve holistically. And that's the thing about having leaders who serve holistically. And we're touching every single area of you. We touch the whole man, spirit, soul, and body. We want to make sure that your well-being is answered and all your needs are also answered, because we want you to be the best that you can be, and also your family, and also in your community. So our first question for our today is, leaders, I want to ask you this. How are you and your family coping with these moments in our nation that have impacted us? And we'll start with Madam Mayor, who got us on mute right quick. So we'll go to Diamond and start with her. How are you being impacted? How's your family being impacted during these moments?
Well, this is probably going to be contrary to popular belief, but I am actually loving it. And let me explain to you why. So I come from the mindset that the world was moving too fast and was too much going on. And we needed something to slow us down and focus on what life really means and what it's all about. So for me, it's been a reflective time for me and my family. We've had much more quality time than we're used to because nobody's running here, there, and everywhere. We're actually intentional with our time together. For me personally, when I drive on the street, it's like I own the road. There's no cars out there. And I get overwhelmed in crowds. So everywhere I go, it's like it's open for the diamond, right? So I know there's a bigger picture here, but if I could just say to those that are listening, find those little moments of that you can make sacred, right? We walk around the lake. We walk around the lake at least 3 or 4 times a week. We just create just fun times and times to interact as a family, because we didn't have that. We sit at the table and we have dinner together now. I don't know if people still do that. I know I hadn't been doing it. So for me, it's gotten me to a place where I can do a lot of reflecting. And I don't know what the world is coming to. I don't know when people say open back up. I don't know what that's going to look like. But I hope that this has been enough pause for most of us to kind of go in and really do some self-examination and say, what is it that I really want? And what are some of the things that I've gotten away from just trying to keep up with the hustle and bustle? So for me and my family, we've used this time to really, redefine our life and how we want to create it going forward. So
awesome. That sounds good. And I like that. I like the fact that you gave some instructions with that too, about slowing down and utilizing these moments and making them the best that you can be. Madam Mayor, what would you say? How has this impacted your family? How have you been coping with these moments?
Well, I'll have to piggyback on what Ms. Diamond said. It has brought us even more closer. We have more conversations going on, and I'm getting to talk with people I haven't spoken to in a long while. I think that for some people, or majority of the people in my area, it seems like it's bringing out more domestic violence. And I can see that too, because my husband gets on my nerves more during this pandemic than he ever has. But at the same time, after we finish running our mouth, we have more deeper conversations. So maybe it is to get the word out to people that instead of using this time, putting in the energy for domestic violence, we could put that energy into seeing what can we do to bring the best out in each one of us. And that's how I look at it. Instead of looking at the bad, why don't we look for that one speck of good and build on that?
Yeah.
Awesome. Pastor Michael?
Well, for my family, it's, first of all of us are healthy, so that's been a blessing. But it has impacted some of my children in terms of, like, one of my children is a business owner, and she caters. And so her business pretty much started shutting down right before everything else shut down, which necessitated her and her son having to move back in with her mom and I. And which is fine. Thank God we have space. But it has also done exactly what Mayor Nemhart and Ms. Diamond have alluded to. It has allowed for us to slow things down. Well, we haven't slowed it down. God has slowed it down, right? And so we recognize that there are the ways we can leverage the slowdown so that we can work on the things that are most important. So the things that are most important have been able to rise to the top, even as far as myself not having to go into my church as much, not having to be around people as much, and kind of as Revelation talks about, going back to my first love and spending the time I need with the Lord to deal with myself so that I can be used in the community as I envision myself needing to be used. And so for our family, it's been a time of just recalibration on the things that are most important as things have been slowed down for us, but it has impacted us economically, though it has not negatively impacted us physically, and we're grateful for that.
That sounds awesome. For our family, I find the same thing, that we're getting closer together. Yes, it has stirred up some, like a hornet's nest with some parts of the family and things like that, but I found myself having peace. It did, in fact, affect one of our dear leaders close to us. He ended up being affected with COVID, not knowing that he actually had it. Don't know if he got affected at his job or from his doctors or something like that. He had a couple of procedures. So we don't know what actually occurred with all of that. Yet I've seen it affect his family and things of that nature, especially his young daughter, with not being able to conversate with her and not being able to be there for her like he has been, this presence, even those around him. It really impacted him because he was always leading out and teaching them how to live their best life and advocating for those who were coming from other countries to get settled here and navigate through all the red tape and democracy that happens here with different things that people have as the challenges when they come here trying to become citizens and things of that nature. So we've seen it impact, but yet it has given us also courage and hope that over this, we've seen him where he could have died, come forward in life. And so that makes you more hope and dependency on God, and seeing the smile and seeing him laugh and seeing him begin to regenerate and come back to life and seeing everybody pulled together. And so also in those moments, some things you talked about, the rest and having dinner with your family and connecting and not being so busy all of the time, it does give us time to, I'm going to say, recollaborate, to come to recalibration, also to reconfigure even the ministries and businesses and things that we do to impact, even in our family, to note and have those really meaningful, like Madam Nemhart said, those conversations with one another. And like Diamond said, you all said, to connect. So that really has been a wonderful blessing as God has earnestly slowed us down and getting us to refocus on what's important. And so the next question I'm going to ask you guys is this: what impact have you seen? And as you've talked about, you've seen some of the impact in your family, but what impact has it had on those that you're serving? How has it impacted them? And how do you find yourself encouraging them?
Should I go or pass?
Go ahead, Diamond. Go ahead.
Honestly, I've heard of various people having folks within their family that have had COVID and have actually overcome it. We have doubled up on our vitamin C and elderberry and all that good stuff and working out. So again, I think like the mayor said, this has given us an opportunity to look at areas of our life that we need to probably, work on a little bit more. So for me, working out and things of that nature, but the people that I know who have been affected by it, they too have now started to look at life differently and slow down. I think this is, one of the exercises I always talk about is breathing, right? And it's not just breathing for the sake of breathing. It's understanding as long as you have your breath, anything more is extra, period. It's like if we can minimize our celebration to just a breath, then anything over that is celebratory. I don't care what it is.
Come on
and
now.
anything that is not just about the breath is not even worth stressing over, because if you stop breathing, it won't even matter, right? So for me,
Come on, girl.
I've been doing a lot of getting people to calm down and realize that nothing is that serious beyond your breathing. And of course, I know we have to do our day-to-day activities, but a lot of this is called, you have to make a choice to focus in on. what your activities are producing. So a lot of the places and spaces that I'm in is intentional activities. It's intentional connections, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where if tomorrow was suddenly to not be here for me, I know that I lived my last few days or moments or minutes intentional. And so I don't focus as much on what is going wrong. And I do know a lot of families have been impacted. Thank God that our family haven't lost a loved one. But then even like the pastor said, financial resources has been very much, how do I say it, shaved, right?
Yes.
And so I know we're going to get to talking about where, you know, our political figures play a role in our, you know, where things are today. But I definitely want to speak on that. But to just sum it all up, I've been just trying to be a space for people to come and reconnect to themselves and breathe through each incident, because everything is moving so fast. We don't know what's going to happen next. So my thing is, I tell everyone, just breathe. And I do breathing exercises, just breathe. So I'll just pass the baton to you, Pastor.
Well, thank you. I hope I can take it a little further. You got me off to a good start talking about how much we should value every breath that we have, and that's very important, because the way that I've seen this whole season, not just COVID, but you know, hearing about murder hornets and then the social unrest that we've been experiencing, all of that has added just a level of anxiety on top of anxiety, right? And so when you are a pastor, you have, you know, a couple hundred people in your congregation. If you outreach to the community, you have, and I didn't mention that I'm the PTSA president at Parkdale High School, which is 2,500 students. So when you have those folks who are worrying about like, oh, my child didn't have a graduation, which they did, I think yesterday. So thank God for that. But that was there was a lot of chatter on that. There was, you know, it's just interesting because in our church, by God's grace, we haven't been affected much. I mean, we've had people, God has been this good to us. We've had people who live with their family, like my daughters live with us, and one of their parents may have gotten COVID, but no one else in the house did. And they have small children and things like that. So God has been very good. And many of our members, we work in a good area for a season like this, because many people can telecommute and things like that and still, still have some employment. And then, you know, economically, we have been blessed even with some of our family members who have lost jobs with the extra $600 on top of the on top of the unemployment. That's been a blessing as well. And so on the one hand, it's almost like, man, this is a pandemic. I'm gonna go slang here. Way back in the day, almost like work ain't hard.
Yeah.
But then psychologically though, from not being around people, from being in isolation, from just being left, you know, with your own thoughts, nothing being open. You know, obviously,
come on now.
Phase 2. You know, people are almost stir crazy, you know, with being alone. But then at the same time, you have other people who are fine. They don't want to re-engage. They want things even slower than what they are. Right now, I guess Miss Diamond is a witness. You know, she understands where they're coming from. And even myself, just a couple of days ago, I started, and I've been, you know, great up until this point, you know, getting my walks in and all those things that we were talking about. But it just hit me, just sadness took me over, even though our church is open and maybe about 60-ish people can come. So I'm seeing people, but I'm not seeing them at the rate that I'm used to seeing people. So I began to feel a little lonely, even though my house is full. So it's just wild. It's interesting because it's a spectrum. It's not a one size fits all. And so as a leader, you sort of have to be prepared for whatever comes your way, which makes it even more important that you're doing first things first in terms of your own body, your own spirit, your own connection with the Lord, so that you have something to give people. And so my eyes actually bother me now. So I'll stop right there now. Is it okay if I press the button? So, okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So maybe Madam Mayor can go, but excuse me for a moment.
Madam Nimhard, How would you answer this question? Madam Nimhart, can you hear us? Madam Nimhart,
Yes.
there she is. How would you answer this question? How have you seen those you're serving impacted, and how do you encourage them?
We've been changing, making some major lifestyle changes. And while making the changes, what we have done is to educate others. So my family was directly impacted with COVID. And a friend of mine who's holistic told me about the ginger and the turmeric. And a past vice principal for Charles Carroll called in and she said she could validate that. When I tried everything that they were doing, it made our downtime about 2 to 3 days for me downtime. And the other people, because they started the dose of holistic medicine, they didn't have any downtime at all. So even though they were tested positive, they had no signs, and no aches and pain. So we did some research and we found out that the people that were vegetarian was less impacted by this virus. So what we did was to reduce the amount of meat, got more vegetables to partake in the community, and just try to make a big lifestyle change and educate the community as to how we can beat this virus. So I've been going around dropping off ginger, turmeric, garlic, lemon, lime to different people that are impacted by it without getting re-exposed to it, but just drop off things like the virgin coconut oil. They say that's very good because what it does, it goes into your system and it makes the virus find an easy way to exit. So I've been sharing that with people from Whole Foods. So just trying to see if we can start a support group to help other people either not to get it, or if they get it, it is not going to impact them the way it has impacted other people.
And yes, while still, and I thank you all for what you all have shared openly and earnestly of the things that you've been doing, the things that you have learned. And self-care is so necessary during this time. And a lot of times as leaders, we don't pause to do self-care. Diamond, I love what you said about breathing and that everything else, it really doesn't matter, because if you lose your breath and you stop breathing, then you can't. I love what you're talking about, Madam Mayor, in reference to turning to the alternative medicines holistically, and also what you shared, Pastor Dickson, in reference to, you know, taking care of yourself. Though people are connecting, respecting the fact of those who may not want to come out right now, may not want to reconnect, but yet checking on others, and while you're healthy, so that you can continue to serve, so that you can continue to give. Those are some of the things, even though our family was impacted, we found the alternative medicines and holistically. And one of the things with the leader who was impacted, the doctor said because of his things that he was doing, his physiology aided him in overcoming this virus because of what he was doing. So I can attest to that with the fact that if you are taking moments and you're caring for yourself and you're doing some of these alternative medicines, they will help you and your body to heal a lot quicker. I myself have walked through some things, and doing living alternatively with alternative medicine has aided me in healing. I am not putting down, I want you all to understand something, listeners. We're not telling you not to listen to your doctors. We're not telling you not to take your medication. I want to be very clear with you. You need to seek counsel from your doctor. You need to talk with your doctor about these alternative uses of different things, because some people can utilize them, some people can't. But we are encouraged because we've learned a lot from them. And it's wonderful, like with what Mayor Nimhart just shared. Madam Mayor was sharing these things with people. If you learn information, share it with others and get out there and share it with them, educate them, you know, be a voice in your community too. And I love the fact that Mayor Nimhart is on the move today. She's out there making sure her families are not just receiving. She's a political figure, but she's also still a community advocate. She's out there on the move, just as the rest of the leaders who are on here with us today. So our next question, my loves, is what are your concerns about the current administration, Congress, and the Senate? So I'm going to start off with Mayor Nimhart again, and then I'm going to move to Diamond and then Pastor Michael.
Okay, so when it comes down to the Senate, I don't have a big issue with the Senate. What I have is a problem with our leader, the top of the line, our president. There are very big mistakes that are being made. There are comments that are being made, and this is not a joke. When you have people livelihoods that are being affected, when you have outright disrespect to other people in their capacity, I have a problem with that. But as I know with political arena, the only way to make things change is to go out and vote in November.
All right. Good information. Diamond?
It's so funny that you would ask me this, because I'm totally like, what I've learned, and maybe because of my spiritual belief, is the change that's going to come is not going to be in the physical, right? In the traditional form of what we're used to, right? So I'm of the spiritual belief that we have the power to change when we connect to our higher power, right? And I know that it's hard for some people to really understand, but I'm the person I believe going in, right? When I say go in, I go in. And I was looking on my page because I posted something, but there is a saying by an author, Rumi. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but it says, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. And so that's where I am. I'm going in. I'm doing the spiritual work, and I'm doing a lot of visualization, because I feel like a lot of what's going on in our political arena, it needed to be exposed, because some of us were just too complacent. We weren't engaged. And humans are adaptable. So a lot of times we can just adjust to what is, and we won't do anything to change. So, there's a balance in what they say, positive and negative. That creates a balance. And for me, I'm seeing a lot of people who have probably sat by the wayside and just looking as spectators become participators. So I think if we can really start to connect to right minds, right spirits, what's going on in our political arena right now can be changed. But that means we're all going to have to take some personal responsibility, as well as be able to trust that there is a higher governing authority. And so there's a universal law, and then there's this man-made law who think they're in charge. But you see, with all the storms and the things that we can't control, that's the universe saying, you guys are really, really testing me. And so I'm trying to connect to that universal power and understanding that we have the authority to move, but we got to connect to the source. So I always tell people, as long as I'm one with the one, it's one with all things, and all things can be moved, replaced, and done away with. So I think if we're talking from a spiritual place, we as spiritual leaders need to connect. We need to go in, and then there are some things that can be done. So I'm going to pass that over to you, Pastor, because I know you got something to share on that.
Well, yeah, I think it's hard to, I'm not a politician. Obviously, having, because of my role within the community, I interact and I engage with politicians. So when we start talking about the administration and, our legislative branch, I can't start talking about them without first chastising the believers.
Come on
okay,
now.
because there was a time when Christianity turned the world upside down, and now it can look so cultural that you can't even tell Christianity from the culture. And so I don't think, it's obvious that we haven't been praying enough. It's obvious that people have put their hope in politics in a way that that the Bible has never told us to do. And so, no, I'm not pleased with the president, but I'm not pleased with any. I mean, the presidents normally don't get a high grade from me. It seems like I'm more impacted by local politics than national politics, so that's one reason. And then when you do a lot, you're always open to scrutiny, right? So there's always the Monday morning quarterback. So having said those things, to qualify what I'm going to say, there is a tone and tenor that our current president chooses to embrace and to exude that does not do well in terms of the ideals that I was brought up to believe that America stands for. And so it is difficult for me to be pleased with him at all, because the things that he doesn't seem to embody those values, and those are values that I've been indoctrinated to embrace from the first time I said I pledge allegiance to the flag, from then on. So I think the whole culture of politics seems to be a bit more partisan than good, and so it's hard for me to trust. And so again, I go back to where I started. The answer is not necessarily. I mean, yes, engage the process where we can, vote our conscience where we must, but let's not only do that. Like, let's be praying right now, because we can see that the people who are in power can forget that they're placed there according to Romans 13. They're placed there by a higher power. They're placed there by God as his ministers, as servants to do good. So when you start restricting who you'll do good to, or act like you're restricting who you'll do good to, and all you can do, as Mayor Nemhart said, is degrade people and demean people, you're already losing me. Like the Jerry Maguire, like, you had me at hello. You're already losing me with the way you're acting towards people, because you're not, as I mentioned earlier, the second greatest commandment, love your neighbor as yourself. You're not even doing that. And we're all image bearers, regardless of what our political persuasion is. And so this president seems to be more of the classism, and I'll stop short of using the word I want to really use, or a word that I could use, but he's just sort of divide and conquer, or he knows the base to which he wants to appeal, and he's just going to appeal to those. And then he also wants to deconstruct what the president prior to him has put in place, and then sometimes want to enact some of the things that President Obama put in place after taking it off the table, and then taking credit for putting it on the table. So he's just a confusing person to have as your leader. So confusing would be probably the nicest thing I could say. So I'll leave it at that, because I will confess on here, I don't pray for him as much as the Bible tells me I should. So I don't want to complain for him more than I pray for him. So I guess tonight I'm gonna have to pray for him, because I talked about him. But it's not just him. It's not just him. It's the whole political process. They just seem to always be at odds with each other, not worrying about what's good or right, but who gets credit, and that's a problem for me.
And I'm going to weigh in on this question also. For me, to piggyback on much of what you all have put on the table and already said, and I know we're going to get some comments on this video, I am not for one person. I don't look at one person. I look at the fact that it's a governing body. And the fact of the matter that God said just men and women would go into the seats of planning to govern over the people correctly. I've had the opportunity to sit in some places where presidents have walked, slept, and even eaten. And at those round tables with some political leaders who are living the word of God. And they're enacting it and responsible for the seats of planning that they have set in. Some are still in office and some have left office. I was grateful to be invited to those tables and get an opportunity to sit and see the young people that they're training to come after them. I take it very seriously, because God holds us accountable for the things that we do. And he doesn't like his people messed over. And so he loves his sheep. And I do take it back to the house. I take it back to the church, because he said, when I come, judgment comes to the house, the church first. And so anything that can be shaken will be shaken. And are we being shaken? Oh, yes, we're being shaken. And so therefore it is going now into the nations. It's going into, don't get me started, y'all. It's going deeper. And so, yes, I believe that we need to be spiritually connected. We need to be spiritually grounded. There are 7 spheres of influence, and we stand in those mountains, and we have a responsibility. And yes, it is also our responsibility as spiritual leaders, as advocates, as community, to sit at those tables of planning and to actually have a voice that echoes and becomes an ingredient to the actual laws that govern over the people. And I'm like this: if you can't do right, and you are professing Jesus' name in your mouth, and you have said that you are a believer, but you are not following him, then God have mercy on you. But I pray for his sovereign will to be done to you, and that you be ejected up out of your seat and give it to a man and woman who is going to govern over people rightly, not selfishly. And that is my problem right now with our governing authorities. It's about personal agendas and not about the people. And so, yes, I do have a problem, and I'm sure people are going to say, because I'm one that usually does not give my political opinions and my thoughts openly and vocally, but God is urging me to begin to speak up about things. And that's saying that, you know, we all born for a season and a time. And so I believe all of us in this conversation, even the fact of where Mayor Nimhart is sitting today, and that she never aspired to do these things until later on, but God moved her into this place so that she could have impact over a community and also over a state, be a part of a state movement and political things to aid people. And yourself, Diamond, look at where you're sitting, look at where you are, Pastor Michael. And so I look at the fact that, yes, it is spiritual. The Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, by the Spirit of God, you can call him whatever you choose to call him, but there's only one God. And I'm just going to say it. There's only one who's greater and superior. And so I look at the fact of God is moving, and he's moving globally, because I believe that there is a people crying out to him. There's so many things that are affecting our nation right now. We have people, I'm $600. People are literally losing their businesses and have been impacted economically. And some are more oppressed economically. They're an economic disadvantage. So I look at the fact, we're arguing over $600. Come on, y'all. Add something to the bill and pass it. And I'm going to stop right there before I say something else. So I'm going to pause for a second, because I could go on, and I'm sure we could all say much more in reference to that. This is impacting people's lives, putting food on their table. We've seen it up and close and personal. Paying for medicine, paying for different personal things that they need. And so we're saying, okay, they need housing. People are being put out of their house because the state ordinances have been lifted now. And unfortunately, and I do feel for the landlords, because they have a private business. And guess what? They're being impacted too. So yes, people's homes are in foreclosure. Yes, there's help, but there are other things that are taking place where people are not getting the support and funding they need to keep the dwellings over their heads. And so some landlords can help keep, let them stay, and then others have to issue notices of eviction. But what happens to those families if they go out and we quarantine in place again? So we got to think about these things bigger than our agendas, is what I'm saying. They're bigger than our agendas. Yeah. And so we got to look to these things of how we are utilize our authority and not abuse our authority. And so with that said, for our next question, what are the thoughts concerning the inclusion of various ethnicities protesting for equality for Black Lives Matter and all across our nation and globally? What are your thoughts? And I want to start with Madam Mayor Nimhart. Madam Mayor? So we're going to jump to Diamond then. We're going to let you start off.
I want to hear Pastor speak on that verse.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead, Pastor.
Go ahead, Pastor.
Take it, Pastor. Take it.
Let the man lead for a minute.
So can you repeat that question? Just talk
The
about,
question is, what are your thoughts concerning the inclusion of various ethnicities protesting together for equality for Black Lives Matter all across our nation and globally?
if I think what my thoughts are, that's great. My thoughts are, that's what's supposed to happen, because when something is right, then everyone can get on board with it. If you really believe that there's an inordinate amount of oppression being focused on Black people, as even if you're not Black, you can say, well, you know what? I recognize that, and I think that's wrong. And so I can come alongside you, and I can go ahead and protest with you. Just like the civil rights movement had people that they had more than just Dr. Martin Luther King. It had it had whites. I was just watching with some youth. We watched the movie Marshall about Thurgood Marshall, and I forgot the white attorney's name in that movie, but his first name was Sam, and he was a white attorney, and he started working for the NAACP. And we need that. We need, when something is right, it transcends an ethnicity. It's if it's right, it's right, and when it's not, it's not. And so it's great to see that the conscience of other people has been smitten. It's unfortunate that it had to take, the death of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd for people to come along. But now that they are with us, thank God that people are saying, yes, your lives matter. Your lives, they matter. Because, the first thing you'll notice about me before I say a word to you, before you know anything about my personality, the first thing you're going to see is that I'm a Black man. And so it's nice to know that you think, you know what, his life matters. And I have a son, and I have daughters, 4 daughters, 1 son. It's nice to know that some people think those lives matter. My church is a multi-ethnic church. We have white people, we have Black people, we have Latinos, we even have a few Asians. And so it's nice to know that other people see what we see, that we're not crazy, that yes, our life matters, and what we saw that we thought was wrong, like you think is wrong too, and you're willing to do something about it. And so I think it's imperative that other ethnicities join in, because it just only speaks to the righteousness of the cause. Now the cause, I would differentiate personally of the, between like the sentiment that Black Lives Matter and the organization itself, personally. But if you're saying that, like, this hodgepodge, this potpourri represents, we think that Black Lives Matter, hey, I'm all for that. And thank you for joining us, because we need your help, because we're only a small percentage of this country, even if we all banded together, even if we all thought the same.
Yeah.
But all of us don't even think the same. We have our Candace Owens out there. We have people like that are of color that seem to have, self-hate or hate towards, our ethnicity. So it's great that we have other people who can come alongside us. And I've even seen signs at certain demonstrations that says Latinos for Black Lives Matter. And this for, wanting to say, I'm not you, but as Dr. said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So we're going to start moving. So yes, I think it's imperative that happens, and that is happening.
Yes. Diamond?
Oh, wow.
I know, he said a lot. I love it.
He said a lot, and I concur with what he said. I also feel that it's important that we understand, again, we say that, where it says try the spirit by the spirit, right? So I'm a person that I resist all of this, I call it separatism, right? Like this, this race, this religion, this, we're of the human race. And I often share with people that love is my religion. And I know we're not talking religions on here, but I hold myself to a certain standard by embracing that as my religion. So there's different behaviors, there's different things that you see. So if you see a Muslim person, you expect certain behaviors, right? You see a Christian person, you expect certain behaviors. So when I say love is my religion, it requires me to be compassionate, to be caring, to be enduring, to love is patient. It requires me to be these things, kind. So I've set a tone for that, right? And by me saying that love is my religion, I hold myself to those standards. And when I look at what's happening with those from other cultures, I see those are souls connecting with the same level of spiritual awareness, or should I say conscious.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a beautiful thing, because what is God? God is love and unity. It unifies the spirits that are of like, right? Like mind, like spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always telling folks, like, even when we think about, they say, well, white people, this, or white people, not all white people are bad, just like not all black people are good. We want to believe that all black people are good, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to believe that all black people, everybody's life matter, but the question is, do you know that your life matter? Are you governing yourself in a manner that you can be valued? And I don't mean that it gives anybody the right to mistreat you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I find that the challenge we have is a lot of times we are trying to help our Black and brown brothers and sisters, but they're not conscious enough for us to even help them.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have to have these conversations within our communities to say, look, brother, your energy is attracting this type of behavior to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't give anybody a pass to take anybody's life or to hurt anybody, but some things attract. Let's just face it, we attract that which we are. So it's not just, saying Black Lives Matter, and then, we have our brothers and sisters out here who are not conscious, right? I do know that if it wasn't for white people, Black people wouldn't be free today. We would still be enslaved because it took a number of white people to get involved. So if it's anything that I would desire to have happen, is that we start to see ourselves as a human race. And it's important that within the human race that all people be treated fair, equally, and just, right? And because it's gotten to the place where it's not just white people against Black people. It's like this country has made Black people like we're not seen as the value that we are. Like, it's not just white people treating us bad. We'll have Chinese people treating us bad, Asian. It's become like a culture in the country. Right. And so I am saying it's time for us as Black people to raise up, as well as with these other cultures, to understand that we are the builders of this nation. Yes. We've sacrificed so much, and we didn't even get to eat at the tables that we built. So there's a lot of hurt and pain, some deep wounds. And you hear the saying all the time, hurt people, hurt people. So I see a lot of my brothers who are harassed by the police, and it's not by white cops. Unfortunately, it's by Black cops. So there's a healing that needs to take place. There's some emotional intelligence that need to be shared amongst our people as a nation if we're going to really have impact. And I am all for diversity, right? But I also know if we start to see ourselves as one race and really start to connect on a soul level, then we can have impact. And without all this, this race, that religion, this, that. So that's my story. I'm sticking to that one. I'm going to pass it over to the mayor.
I must concur with both of you. It is so important. And Mayor Nembhard, do you want to weigh in on this question? Mayor Nembhard? I think Mayor Nembhard is still on the move out there in the community and possibly talking to constituents right now. So therefore, I'm going to say to you, I do concur on what both of you have expressed. I do concur with the fact, and I'm sure Mayor Nembhard does also, with the fact of diversity is it. And I love the fact of what you said, Daman, your faith, your belief, your religion is love, because love conquers all. Love conquers all evil. And that's what the Bible clearly says. Love gives us a guideline of what love is, and that love takes no account of suffer wrongs. Love, believes the best of somebody. Love. And what I see is with all ethnicities, thank you, ethnicities, uniting together in all different cultures and backgrounds, coming together to support, we divide in that separatism in one race, and that defines us. But what really defines you as a person, and do you know your value? And when you know your value and your acceptability, you can be that, and you can go beyond the color of your skin. Because I don't just see your skin, I'm going to see you as an individual person, and what value you bring to the table, what value you bring to my community and my nation, what value you bring and what impact you have. So I'm going past, I'm not going to judge you by what your appearance is on the outer, or what group or segment that we characterize and came up with these categorizations for people to fit into, which really is causing an oppression for our people in many groups. And so therefore it says this group is that. And so when you see me, you immediately judge me. But love doesn't judge. Love sees me as I am, and love sees me for who I am and what I am and my value, instead of immediately putting these categorizations on me, putting these stigma and these labels on me that don't fit me. And so my encouragement to all and to people is, hey, live your best life and be your best self. Don't let anybody place you in that judgment. And it's unfortunate that we have to train our children, especially our Black males, how when they're out, no matter what status they, and it could be a professional, they could be a white, we call it white collar, and we call it blue collar, and we call it laborers. But they can be in a higher segment or status. They've worked hard for their education or whatever place. One of my sons is a lawyer, but nevertheless, he's still a Black man. So he experiences different things when he goes out, and they don't know he's an officer of the court, and that he's a part of those who carry and enforce the laws and agree with the laws and help people through the system and the judicial system. They have no idea. My daughter, a couple of my daughters, they look like they're very light. So at the end of the day, you don't really know what they are because of how they carry themselves. So because you're trying to figure out who they are, you may treat them or engage with them a certain way. I've experienced the same thing. And so, people are not sure what you are, or what category you fit in race. And so, but let us move to a place where we begin to treat each other with respect, with understanding, with value. Even if, and I must say this, I concur with something that you said, the fact of the matter is, knowing yourself and knowing your acceptability aids you in adding value back. But when I have a negative mindset, I can attract negativity to me. No matter where I go, I can be moved out of that place or that atmosphere I'm at, and I can be a negative impact to another atmosphere and attract the same thing. I've seen people and work with people that say, something's always following me. I stopped doing this, but I noticed even though I moved, maybe moved to another state, I ended up in the same situation. I ended up being in relationship with the same type of people, where your mindset, the landscape between your two temples, attracts externally what is going on internally. And so with that said, I'm going to move on to the next part of our question. I'm going to ask Mayor Nimhart if she would like to weigh in on that question that we were talking about, if she can. Mayor Nimhart, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, did you have something to add about the various ethnicities protesting together for the equality for Black Lives Matter all across our nation and globe?
I love it. It means that we're standing in solidarity against the foolish.
All right.
And for me, I have no tolerance of what's happening in this world right now. I am just too, I'm drowning. So right now it is
Mayor Nimhart, you're breaking up.
backgrounds getting together, all different cultures. However, one of the issues that I have is ulterior motive. So while we're getting all the different ethnic backgrounds to help us, some of them are taking it to a different level. And sometimes I'm trying to find out whether or not we are being set up or support is needed. So I just want to make sure that for me, I support the issues we're having. So the police brutality,
Mm-hmm.
Cop killing unarmed men, all that kind of stuff I support.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say 100% I support Black Lives Matters because there are some bigger players in the back of Black Lives Matters.
Mm.
And until I know what motives are, I won't say I support that movement.
Mm-hmm.
Support the cause. That's where I'll stop at.
I agree. So the next part of our question, I'm gonna start with you, Mayor Nimhart, is do you believe that the impact that these protests, and I'm gonna say protests because it is a cause, and I concur with what Mayor Nimhart said there with cause. Be for the cause, not a label, a cause. And you added onto this, Diamond, with the fact of what it represents is basically what you said in your conversation. It's not categorizing or putting a label on something, but what does it represent? And how does it bring us together? And how will it impact? And that's really what all of you said. And so with that said, do you believe that this impact and will it aid to change protocols and policies, not only with our police department, but other authorities, other agencies that have governing authority? And I'm going to put it just like that. I'm not going to specify anything, but will it really impact and change the protocols and policies, not only of our police department, because we have to realize there are others over them to help them change, and other governing authorities. What are your thoughts, Mayor Nimhart?
Well, for me, I know a lot of people are talking about defunding the police and police reform. I am for police reform, but I'm not particular in agreement to defund the police. What we need to do is to reallocate the resources that we have into different areas and redirect our services. That's what I believe in. Because take, for instance, our police officers. Once they knew what my mission and vision is and how I felt about this whole situation, they did their own adjustment to their duty call. They made their everything changed. They went out and they're, instead of doing twice a year excessive force training, is now being done every month.
Mm.
They're redirecting their services. So they're going to take one of the police officers and make her into like a social worker kind of person who would go out and deal with the kids who are running away, go out and deal with the kids who are being truant, go out and deal with the people with domestic violence. She wouldn't be dressed in as a police officer, so it would be less intimidating. Redirecting some of the funds now to do other things, such as training the community as to what are some of the trainings that the officers get. So real life simulations so that the community can say, okay, so now that we know our officers are trained, then we should not have this issue. I'm not too big on the riots. I'm not big on the march is good, but what I did for New Carlton is I fixed the issue rather than trying to correct the issue after the fact. So we are putting things out there to say, listen, this is what we believe in. Like the statue on Westbrook for Charles Carroll. Charles Carroll did a lot of great things in the state of Maryland. He was the first man to say stop and to sign the documents to release slaves. However, he was the first one to keep back 191 slaves. And it is causing an outburst. So I made an executive order to remove all statues from City Hall and anywhere in the city that shows his, that reinforces what he had done. He did good things, and we have to say that. But rather than having people call with a petition with over 300 signatures saying, we will deface, we will break, we will riot, we will, you fix the problem. So I removed it, and now we're having another set of people with outcry. So we can't please all the people all the time. We just gotta please most of the people, most of the time.
That's right. I think that's a wonderful job, and what you all have proactively done. You've given the answers before the questions were even answered or the problem presented itself. And so I love the fact of the action and the model that you have done. And I congratulate your police department for not only coming to the table and listening, but they took action. And that's what we need right now. We need to work together and come together to bring resolution and resolve to aid and help. And you all did your research also into these names, into these people. Yes, they did good, but then they also did some things that aren't right, that were not helpful and were selfish. When you look at that, by him holding back so many people, and that affected 191 families, if you look at that. And so you were proactive in how you answered, not just for, it wasn't a personal agenda, it was a community agenda to answer the need and the problem. Pastor Michael, could you weigh in?
Definitely. First of all, I would also like to commend you to Madam Mayor Nemhart for your proactivity. I do think these protests, they are having impact, but I think what we're looking at is that we need to change the culture. So when I listen to Madam Mayor Nemhart, I hear that they're changing the culture of the police in New Carrollton. They're changing the culture by having the police engage, not just be told what to do or demanded what to do, but have them be a part of the process. They're part of the community as well. Not all police, as Ms. Diamond said, not all police are bad. Not all, she said, not all white people are bad and not all black people are good. Not all police are bad. You know, we have policemen that are members of our church, and they're not bad. If they did something bad, we would definitely say something to them. So that's the kind of church we have. But we know, we hear things like, if something bad happens in the community, then the police officer has to see, you know, a psychiatrist or a therapist of some kind to make sure that he or she is okay. But that only happens when something bad happens, something that's newsworthy. But what about the rest of the years that this individual, this person, has to see the worst of the worst that happens within our community that doesn't make the news? Like, they are an individual as well, and they do need to be retrained. They don't seem to know how to de-escalate. So right now, it's the protests are having impact right now, but I think what's needed is a cultural change, not just a legislative change. We've had legislative changes and been back to square one, you know, as it stands. We've had to have like fair voting acts. We've had to have fair housing acts. We've had to have these after we supposedly had the same rights in the first place. So what needs to change is the culture, and protests won't necessarily change the culture, but they can raise awareness of the need for accountability, and they can trigger cities and states to be proactive in changing the culture of policing, so that the immunity that policemen have can be tweaked, so that they aren't able to just do anything and get away with it and know they're going to get away with it. And therefore you can have put your knee on someone's neck for 8 minutes as they are already subdued. That doesn't make any sense. I do think the protests draw attention and will change things. You know, you see Netflix, Prime, all of these places that don't have to say anything, choosing at this time to say something about Black lives. I do concur with Madam Mayor Nemhart's caution that we have to make sure everybody has the same agenda. But I think that gets handled when cities like hers are as proactive as theirs has been, and you include the people you're trying to reform, because they're human beings also, and not all of them are bad. And I know some people, even in our county, they just want to get rid of, but that's not, again, I'm from the church. That's not what the Bible tells me to do. So, so I'll work with you till you demonstrate that you're unable to be worked with. And some people think that the police are there and the people over the police, but I'm not convinced yet, because I have people in my church. I have her police chief to refer to, that they're not all bad. They want good as well, and we can work with them, but they do need to be accountable. And so I, again, applaud the efforts of New Carrollton.
Wonderful. Diamond, you want to weigh in?
So sure, as an emotional intelligence and energy flow coach, I'm always conscious of making sure that we're not focusing on right and wrong. And I know the world, and this is a philosophy I came up with years ago, right? So whenever we make something a right and wrong situation, somebody is always going to have to be right and somebody's always going to have to be wrong, right? So I've switched that focus from focusing on who's right and who's wrong to how do we make peace of this and how do we simplify this, right?
I like that.
Because if we can find a way to make peace and simplify it, then I don't have to be right, nor do I have to be wrong. But if it has to be a right and wrong in it, then that distracts or detracts us away from what is the matter at hand. So I listened to what the mayor said, and she said, I don't believe in really defunding the police. I feel like there's things that we could suggest, which they did, so that we could still have them, but we create some conditions, right? Because when you have a challenge in a relationship, it doesn't require us to just quit a relationship. You don't just get mad at your wife today and say, well, you're wrong, so I got to divorce you. You have to find a common ground that what did we come together for anyway? What was law enforcement put in place for anyway? Doesn't mean that it didn't get off track, right? Just like when we get married, we step at the altar and we say for better or for worse, but we really mean for better. Because when worse happen, we like, I'm out of here. This guy, he's this. But it really means for better in our minds. That's what we went into it with. But when worse presents itself, that's an opportunity for us to grow. That's an opportunity for us to make peace and simplify what's going on. And so I heard a couple things. What she shared was great. I think if we want to see change, we have to suggest it. A lot of times everybody can point out the problem. I can point out what's wrong at your house. You can come to my house and point out. But if you come to point out something, come to bring something too, right?
That's it.
And I think that is the approach. If we think about utilizing our voice, it's not to say you're wrong. It's to say, hey, we've been hurt. And here's some things that will stop us from hurting. So that in itself is the approach that I take. And one of the things I do believe that our law enforcement, and you and I, Dr. Claudia, talked about this, we need to get more emotional intelligence training into these places. I mean, people in authority, because there's so many people out here in authority who lack maturity. So you can't even reason with them because they don't have the mature enough mindset to even comprehend what you're sharing. There's a lot of bullies throughout. You talk about bullies in schools. It's bullies everywhere we go. There's bullies. It's like, because somewhere along the line, people are not evolving in themselves to believe and understand that you don't have to bully somebody to be in charge.
That's it.
So I feel like, going back to my religion, love is my religion. I am charged with being patient, kind, caring, and compassionate to people. Whether I agree with you or not, if I make that the premise of my focus, I have to do this for me. And we have to get to a place where we understand that a lot of the people, be it police or in government, they're just wounded children, and they've never resolved their issue. And there's going to be a need for a lot of healing, and me and you talked about this, Pastor, doing healing camps. I mean, Dr. Claudia, I'm sorry. We need to start thinking about putting together healing camps. People need healing. It's a lot of pain and trauma that's going to come out of what has just transpired over the last couple of months with the pandemic, with the what's happened with all of the killings and stuff. And when are we going to deal with this stuff? How are we going to process this? Because it's too heavy. Like, the whole world is going to be dealing with PTSD. Yes. So my plea is for those that are in position and those that, the reason why I started the leadership coaching and training was because I felt like I knew I couldn't reach everybody, but if I could reach those who had a cluster of people, a group of people, that would be where I could have most impact. Because those people I could train up and they could go back and take this out, because it really is about, having, the ability to manage and self-regulate through emotional intelligence. So with all things, I think if we start there, where's the mindset? What is the mindset of the people and how are they managing their emotions? You're going to see why they do what they do. And people do what they do based on how they feel. They don't
Yes.
do it always because it's right, right? So,
Yes.
you know, and I'll end with this, just because something is legally right does not mean it's morally right, right?
That's right.
And vice versa. And some of these laws need to be changed because they no longer serve our highest good for humanity. It's
Mhm.
legally right, but it is morally very wrong. So
Yes.
we have to start looking at lining up the morals with the governing laws of this country and saying, does this even make sense anymore? So I'll pass it back over to you, Dr. Claudia.
I agree with that. And, you know, feel free to call me Pastor Claudia too. It's all right, honey. I am all. Every title he gave me, I'm that, and it has a function and a reason and operation. And I try to do my best by the power of the Holy Spirit to function in it. And my last thing on that is the fact of that if we look at the template of life, which is the Bible, which I do my best to live by, we can see that there are outlines for when, if we go to each book, it always starts off with encouragement before it brings into correction, and then it goes into solutions, and it goes into instructions of how to live so you can live your best life. If we all, as Pastor Michael had said a few times back, was if we treat people the golden rule, do unto others as you hope and wish they would do unto you. And so we all have that in our mindset, we'll move into that place of living in and being love, acting it out. It's an action. Love is an action word. I know it looks like a noun, but it really is a verb because it's active. And if we go into that place and we become whole and healed ourselves, then we will be better people. We will serve better in the positions as adults, supposedly, and maturely and govern, utilize the authority that many of us been given the right way, in a right, proper manner. And because understanding that everything we do impacts somebody. I don't care who you are. Our lives are connected with people no matter what we're doing. Somehow somebody is receiving something that you're giving and doing, whether you're seen or not seen. And so pausing for a minute, I want to thank Mayor Nimhart for joining us, Madam Mayor, because she took time out of her busy schedule to jump on with us. She had to jump off of the recording and the call here, but we're so thankful for her coming to the Community Roundtable and all that she's doing and how she's serving and how she's utilizing her authority and her leadership to impact and serve her community. And with that said, I want to go to our last question because we kind of jumped in and talked about already what the different strategies our organizations and we as people and persons in leadership use to aid those varying persons that we serve with different humanitarian strategies and vital supports and resources. So my last question to you today is, I want to ask you, as leaders in your different stations, what advice would you give to those watching today who are affected by the pandemic and those that you serve who have been affected by the pandemic or are currently still being affected? And what resources would you direct them to? So I'm going to start off with Diamond first.
Well, first, I would tell people to focus on your mental wellness. We are a people of, we don't understand that just like when you're trying to live a healthy, fit life, it requires certain behaviors and disciplines, right? Either you're working out or you're eating a certain diet, you know, you're staying away from sugars. Well, mental wellness is something that requires you to focus intentionally. And so you don't have to worry about mental illness, right? Because we only react when we say, oh, someone's had a breakdown or this, and I've had it all. Like, I've dealt with a lot of mental, emotional things that I realized I have a regimen. I go to therapy, I do hypnotherapy, I do meditation. I have a full, I call a full line of things that I do so that I can focus on my mental wellness, and I'm not concerned about having a breakdown because I'm trying to be strong. Like, in our culture, we are raised to be this strong, you gotta be tough. I'm not trying to be tough anymore. I'm not even, I don't, like I tell my daughter, I don't want to be seen as this strong Black woman. I'm resilient, but strength is something that comes through a process. I don't want to be in strong mode all day, every day. I tell people that if I could give you an example, if you had to pick up a 30-pound weight, it's not that heavy. But if I made you carry it all day, every day, it will become like 1,000 pounds after so many hours. And a lot of us are carrying a lot of heavy mental weight. And some of it is we've picked it up. Some of it is our lifestyle. So the first thing I would tell people is put yourself together a mental wellness plan. The second thing I would say is practice your breathing. There is just a simple breathing thing that I do throughout the day, and it's usually like every 2 hours. I take 5 deep, intentional breaths. It's what I call my all day, everyday meditation. I'm not doing anything but giving thanks to God in those breaths, but it reminds me and it keeps me grounded and it relieves a lot of stress. And I promise you, I always tell people, God is in the breath. When you pause and do that breathing, that's where you get downloads and guides to tell you, oh, okay, you have a challenge. Call Dr. Claudia. She might can help you. It's in that breath. Practice it. And there is one resource that I am aware of. It's called the Black Alliance Mental Health Alliance. Are you guys familiar with that?
No.
No. So I will provide that information to you. But it's a really good resource, and they are doing a lot of virtual camps and different workshops. It's Black Mental Health Alliance. So
Wonderful.
reach out to them. And I think, you know, people would say, well, why does it have to be Black? Well, we have a different challenge as Black people. So sometimes we need Black people for Black people so that they can even understand us, because I've been through every psychiatrist, psychologist, and all I know is a lot of them, when I talk about my real Black issues, they didn't believe me. It was so crazy and far-fetched that they don't understand our struggle. So I need to be able to connect to the brothers and sisters that understand.
Yes.
And last but not least, I know we're probably going to be giving out information on my website, askthediamond.com. I have an assessment there where I can, it's a complimentary assessment, but it helps you to determine what your, it's called True Colors, where you can pick out what your colors are based on a short assessment. So I'm also a resource. You can go to my website, askthediamond.com. And once you finish that assessment, if you want to get to a deeper, you will get information about your personality, your leadership style, and things of that nature. But if you want more, then you can set up a consultation with me and go from there. So definitely mental wellness, guys. We're focusing on our mental wellness, and we won't have to worry about mental illness.
All right. Pastor Michael.
Yeah, I would just echo, you know, the statements on mental wellness, especially because, you know, many people are still in isolation. But so I would include connecting with people outside of your household. So, you know, even if that's just a call, if it's just a Zoom, just connect with others, you know, people that you can, that are your friends, you know, you know, it doesn't have to be your entire friend network. It can just be one person, even if it's just that person, you know, talking with them frequently enough so that, excuse me, you're not just feeling trapped by the situation. And I think in my district, the 3rd district of Prince George's County, we are blessed to have a go-getter of a county council member named Danielle Glaros, who has found ways to do exactly what Mayor Nemhart wants to do, and I think sometimes even works with Mayor Nemhart to get the community to help the community. So different faith-based organizations and other nonprofit organizations to help. Our church was able to deliver produce to people's homes weekly for a few weeks, maybe a couple of months. We were able to do that for maybe we distributed over a couple of 1,000 pounds of produce within the area. We also have helped out where we've heard other people are giving away food. So like I think Councilmember Glaros has something going on at St. Mary's Catholic Church. We've helped out with that. So I think United Baptist Church on Riverdale Road also distributes food if that's a need. So that's been the way in which we've tried to help and tried to funnel that information out to people as well. But I think, I'd be remiss if I did not say, above all of those things, because man does not live by bread alone, and because it is not good for man to be alone. So a person cannot do everything in and of his or herself, that we must actually include God as part of our strategy. With our strategy, as Ms. Diamond said, the breath that we have, it comes from God. Even if you look at the creation of the first human being, it was like we were just an inanimate object, a doll or something inanimate, until God breathed the breath of life within us. And so having given us that, we cannot be who we were created to be apart from him. So I would say, please do not forget God in all that is going on. And we talked earlier about how we've gone back to some things that maybe should have been in place from the get-go. And now we're thanking God for things we should have been thanking him for the entire time. But let's not forget him even as we begin to transition out, because who knows, we may have to transition back in, because some people want to open everything up too soon. So we'll see. Yeah. But either way, God promises never to leave nor to forsake his people. And so please approach him. And as far as, I like to obviously counsel people. I like to be for people as much as I can. I can be contacted through the church's website, solidrockchurch.net. You can, I think you'll have to email info@solidrockchurch.net to get to me. I won't put my specific email out on blast, but since this is going to be shared with the world, but if you go there, I will definitely give you a call back if you email us and let us know that you would like to talk with me. And I become aware of resources as well. So I may not be able to spout off a bunch right now, but people do contact us to let us know so that we can get the word out. So please don't hesitate to do that. I'm Pastor Michael Dickson from Solid Rock Church. Again, just so you remember who I am. And that website was solidrockchurch.net.
All right. Well, thank y'all so much for sharing. I want to tell you also, please, for holistic mental health and personal wellness support, such as food, such as other personal goods and personal items, please reach out to Sunrise Counseling Agency, which I'm in partnership with. Our senior therapists, our staff, the Sunrise CCA team will actually want to help you. We will get some consults set up with you. We will refer you out as we need to. You can reach us at 301-458-0578. Once again, 301-458-0578. I myself am a clinical certified counselor. I'm a coach. I'm also a community developer. So please, we have our outreach resources where we're working in collaboration with many community advocates, agencies, and local and state officials. And we are working diligently with Madam Mayor Nimhart to get resources out to the community and the public through FBCOG, the Faith-Based Collaborative Outreach Group, and we're fondly known as the Collaborative. So please visit our website so you can find more resources at www.thecollaborative. Acronym is F as in Frank, B as in boy, C as in cat, O as in ostrich, G as in good.com. Again, that's www.thecollaborativefbcog.com. Once again, you all, I hope you can link with all of us to get the resources that you need. We will put up in this video, we're going to tag everything and have everybody's information available for you on our different mediums. And I just want to thank my guests today for joining me, Ms. Diamond Petty, our illustrious Mayor Felicia Nimhart, and our Pastor Michael Dickson from Solid Rock Church. This brings us to the end of our discussion. And I want to thank you today for joining me at the Heart to Hearts Community Roundtable. Your presence and your openness has been invaluable. And my hope is that it has inspired someone today and it has given them hope. And you are welcome back anytime. I look forward to having more inspiring moments with each of you. And I just want to say God's blessings upon you and yours. I thank you so much for joining me today at the round table. As we discuss as a community, we will be gathering again at the round table. We're going to have 8 discussions. And so our next round table, we will be discussing with mothers with sons during this time, how they've been affected. And I've talked with many, and they have been concerned and nervous when, you know, they want their kids to call them and connect with them. So we're going to invite some mothers to the round table, some who are very, very active in their communities, but nevertheless, they are mothers. And so I thank you so much, guys, for joining me. And we're also going to have those fathers come to the table too. So Pastor Mike, y'all are not left out. And so Pastor Michael, y'all will be coming to the round table to discuss how we are raising our kids, advising our kids during this time as they go forward to take the baton and take leadership and continue forward with impacting not only our communities, but our nation and our globe. I love you much. You guys take care, and please be blessed. Continue to stay safe and continue to be blessed. God bless you and your seeds that you are sowing. So love you much, and you all take care. God bless you.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.